Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the SPS DAOn Hall. I will be your Clayboy, and today I am joined by PJ from Jupiter Corp. How's it going today, PJ?
Excellent. Can't complain. As they say out here, nothing changes but the time and the weather. So, very excited. I love talking with you, obviously, Clay. I know I spend a lot of time with you, but it's a beautiful Friday, March 28th, depending on where you are in the world. So I can't complain.
Awesome. And if like the people on the YouTube can give me like a thumbs up or something, let me know you guys can hear me. And I'm assuming everybody in the Discord can hear me. But yeah, like I said, I'm on a new setup. I think I got everything good. I've been kind of like doing this in some capacity off and on for years. I'm not Rondon. I'm not like the
So I'm
OBS god
saying,
or anything.
yeah, Rondon has a setup, dude. Like he's got it set. He's got all kinds of software running in the background that's custom made. It's pretty
Yeah,
crazy, but I don't think you need that, Clay. I think you speak for yourself there, buddy.
awesome. Yeah, it looks like everybody can hear us. So awesome. Okay, let's see. So what's
Well,
going on,
first off,
PJ?
yeah, how's everybody in Thailand on your end? Like, I know you guys got hit with a really nasty earthquake.
Yeah,
Hopefully, everybody's safe.
that was fun to wake up to. So like I'm actually in the States at the moment.
Of course.
I get to visit my family like once a year, and then I wake up this morning to like alerts that there was a earthquake. So it's kind of like uh,
7.7.
yeah, like apparently it was a big one. But I reached out, the wife's okay, so I think we live to fight another day.
Excellent, excellent. Hopefully, everybody's safe and sound. But yeah, that looked brutal. I was just watching videos of the skyscrapers with all the pools on top. Apparently, they make those pools to resonate with the building when something like that happens. And it's kind of actually a function to have the pool on the roof. So watching the water spill over is actually what they're supposed to do. And I guess it actually helped out quite a bit. But it's just crazy to see. Pretty
Yeah,
brutal. 7.7 is gnarly.
yeah. I don't know. I've yet to actually experience one, and I'm okay with that because it sounds pretty terrifying.
I remember when I was a kid, the Northridge earthquakes happened out here in California. And yeah, that was crazy. That's when the freeways collapsed up in San Francisco, the 8. I think it wasn't, no, it wasn't the 8. I forget which freeway it was, but the Northridge earthquake was devastating. Now we just get hit with fires. So California's got fires, earthquakes, and homelessness. That's kind of what we're known for now. So, you know, it's like, we'll see if there's
I thought it
anything
was
else.
all rice-a-roni.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it's earthquakes are terrifying. We actually get them all the time out here where I live, in Southern California, but they're small. They're really small. They're just very loud. And I live in a valley, so it resonates, and you can actually hear it probably 5 to 10 seconds before it actually hits, and then you'll just get a quick jolt, and that's about it. But we probably, and I'm not kidding, I probably have an earthquake at minimum every month, at least once a month. So yeah, it's it's terrifying, but at the same time, not much you can do about it. But I'm glad to hear that everybody's safe, and just hope everything, hope it doesn't keep happening. So
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I said, I don't know a lot about this. Like I'm from hurricane land, so yeah, if you
oh
want to know
yeah,
about
true.
like if you want to know about going underwater or like having half the state like wiped off by like a global sized tornado, like stuff like that, like I can relate. But as far as like the earth shaking and opening up and trying to like eat you, that's new to me.
Yeah, not quite so pleasant, but hopefully we can kick off on a better note here. Sorry for taking it deep in that direction, but yeah, thanks again for having me on. I know it's been a minute. Kind of made the rounds with a lot of people in the community. Had a lot of time talking to people. Obviously, we've been extremely busy. Finally, get our heads above water, and the development team at Jupiter working hand in hand to get validators out, which has been a tremendous milestone for Splinterlands and for the community. So very excited to see what else happens from here on out. And I hope we can kind of clear a nice little roadmap for what we want to do with the time that we have left, as well as see if there's anything else that would make value. I mean, we just want to create value, right? It's what we're really good at doing. And according to Matt, having validators out for him was the biggest achievement so far as technological roadmaps, because it does a lot for the token, the DAO, and the community. But there's a lot of confusion around certain things. I know people had this idea that validators would be managing consensus, which is not really true. So hopefully we can talk about that a little bit. And then there's just a bunch of other things that I think are actually core to what we're trying to do and what we can offer that would really be nice to discuss and see where we go from here. Because I think also, and sorry for being long-winded here, but there's a lot of things that still need to happen, not just with validators, but with the actual decentralization piece of the community. And I know you've been working diligently to work with the foundation aspect of it. But there are other things that, at least in my experience, would bring a lot of social value, as well as even further decentralize and democratize a lot of what's happening with SPS. So hopefully we can get into it. And I have plenty
Yeah,
of time to chat today. So
yeah, it's just dawning on me like how long it's been since I've been able to do one of these. So like I'll what I'll try to do too is like once we're through like all the Jupiter and everything and stuff, like I'll try to stick around and take questions. But yeah, like I don't know. I guess like a lot of people don't know everything that like I've been working on, but yeah, getting the foundation set up was one of them. Like trying to negotiate deals with payment processors so that we can get fiat on off ramping, which is something you and I actually had to talk to a little bit more about, because I want to like one of my big goals is I want a fiat on off ramp that goes directly into your like game wallet. And
yeah,
so I found a company that's willing to work with us and actually integrate with Hive, but they're not gonna do it until they finish. Basically, like they're negotiating a deal with Hive right now, or like I think they're trying to onboard Hive. And my understanding is like I'm actually pretty good friends with some of the people involved in that process. So my understanding is the hang up isn't like the money or anything like that for them. Like the hang up is Hive doesn't have any kind of like centralized entity to point towards, right? And that's one of the reasons
yep,
why we set up a foundation. And it's also one of the reasons why that took so long is I had to be very careful with how we're setting up a foundation, right? Like I don't want to imply any kind of like liability or ownership on the people that are going to.
yeah,
So like we've got Matt Clark as like our chairman, and we've got like Dave and Beach Angles are also involved. So it's like there's a lot of like boring like legal crap and stuff. Like I know it's probably not going to be like very interesting to everybody, but yeah, just suffice it to say, it's been a very busy few months for me personally. I've also started helping out the team with like some of the design and testing for Conclave Arcana, because like it's the DAO basically hired Splinterlands to make the set. And being like the DAO project manager, I feel like it was very important for me to make sure that we see a good return on that investment. So like it's one of the reasons why I started getting involved probably like I guess probably about 4 months ago now, 3 4 months ago. And honestly, man, like I'm really glad where that set's at now. I feel like things are going really really well. That I don't know how else to put it, dude. I don't think people understand how monumental the
so
shift that we've seen this year is.
oh yeah, for sure. And like I've done a ton of this stuff for different organizations. And to be honest, I'm like very surprised at how good of a deal you guys have structured around this, especially right now, because I think Especially, oh, actually, yeah. Let me digress just a minute. But I've been doing the DAO formation and capital formation in decentralized communities since probably 2016, 2017. Um, and I've been really involved with a bunch of different legal groups, venture capital groups, even family offices, and actually even um, a lot of major hedge funds that invested early in crypto around this, and have talked to pretty much every legal community from the Maldives to Singapore to Panama. It's been quite a learning experience. I actually pulled up some original documentation about why it's so important here, um, from a Maldives group. Actually put this really nice packet together, but we didn't end up using them for the project that we were on. But it was for legal structure and compliance, asset and treasury management, liability protection for all of the members involved, the fundraising and grant administration, so that you have a more congruent and trusted vehicle to actually go out and raise funds, but also distribute funds. Um, the big one, which you already touched on, which was governance continuity and making sure that you have a governing body. And then one that I know Hive has actually participated with us in doing, because Hive is actually a pretty well structured formation, even though there's not really a actual company, or I don't believe there's, like you said, there's not like any one company that you can point to, but brand building and public relations, and then facilitating partnerships, and probably the one that everybody wants to know, which is long-term mission and alignment, and aligning the key priorities of the community with uh, basically the whole aspect of what the foundation is. So working on all those things is really, really tough. It's time consuming. You have to get used to the legalese too, which is probably the most brutal part, because it's kind of scary going through the documentation and working with people who are, in theory, meant to talk over your head about certain things. But really good uh, groups are, I'd say most of the time it's legal groups will make you understand or help you understand what it is you're trying to do. So when I heard about what you guys had going on, I was very impressed. Actually, that's you guys. Not only did you get a great deal, but you got a great company to help you guys. So I'm very excited to see where this goes. And again, kudos to you for doing all the work, because I know it's not easy. It's really, really tough stuff to do, and it's just so time consuming too. So, and then payment processors and payment providers. Yeah, so I've spent a ton of time doing that very same thing, and we've had dozens of conversations with payment providers. I'm very impressed that you guys were able to get these guys to agree to come on board. So I'm looking forward to also helping you work on that as well. And maybe we can talk about what that looks like here in the near future too. So we can get right into it.
Yeah, I mean, like, ideally, I think like what we have to do at this point. So like I'm working with one main payment processor. Like we actually just got the treasurers to release payment yesterday. So hopefully within about 4 weeks they will be offering SPS to their service. So what we need to do is we need to get basically like we need to get their widget integrated into the Splinterland site. What I'm thinking is like basically like where the Transact page is, we like basically just heavily feature their widget, and then we offer like
Mm-hmm.
backup options. So like right now like the only backup option is Transact, but I'm also in talks with another payment processor, and I'm trying to negotiate a free listing with them. Um, I don't know how great that one's going to be. Like, I don't know if they officially support EUS, like they're telling me they do, but like I'm looking at their docs,
Mm-hmm.
and like I have questions, but like this is again why I'm saying like some of these guys you just have to like play hardball with, because like I'm not convinced that they offer the value, but if they're going to list us for free, then that's not really a concern. Um, but one of the things is like with this other one that I'm talking to that wants, like I'm trying to get a free listing, is they want to source liquidity from crypto.com, which I think would be problematic for us, since crypto.com has like basically like
Yeah.
little to no liquidity on it. But hey, like it's an opportunity, right? Like if we start having a fiat like on maybe off ramp going through crypto.com, then that's a arbitrage opportunity for somebody that's like running trading bots. You know, they can put some liquidity on crypto.com and start managing it, and you know, maybe they can make a little bit of money on the delta there. But
on they
yeah,
say also get a little bit more market volatility too,
yeah.
right?
But all in all, like there's a lot of stuff happening on the DAO end. There's a lot of stuff happening on the company end, you know. And now the DAO has like hired cryptomancers, so like we're basically paying for land development. And you know this is one of the things like I know like some people are like, why are we doing this? Why like one thing that like I was pretty adamant about from the beginning is like, guys, like I worked with cryptomancer for years. Like I'm telling you, like if he's on the job, it's getting done. Like you know, like barring a meteor strike or freak accident, like Cryptomancer delivers. So like, as soon as like Matt said like put Cryptomancer on the job, I'm like, yep, okay, land's coming out. And that's when I started buying a bunch of
Yeah.
land. But yeah, man, like I said, dude, it's like 2025 is the year of Splinterlands, man. Like it's all coming together.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things that are happening that I've been excited to see roll out. And Cryptomancer is awesome. I think when I originally started, he and I may have butted heads a little bit because I just wasn't used to his style of engineering. And then I don't think, I was definitely different than Richard and everybody else that was kind of managing the dev team there. But I actually came to learn to really appreciate him and the work that he does. And he just gets it done. And he's very thoughtful and he's very methodical. Um, and so, like, yeah, it is one of those things where it's like you can kind of set it and forget it and just let him do his thing and he'll come back. But he also contributes quite a bit in the conversation as well. He's just on a different time zone from most of the rest of the team, right? So he's kind of like this lone wolf that goes out there and just gets it done. Um, and I'm really glad to see that the DAO also sees the same thing. Like I don't know, after years of working with individual team members, you learn what their strengths and weaknesses are, and there's Splinterlands has gone through a ton of engineers because at one point they were just hiring like crazy, and I know you know what I'm talking about, right? So, um, what we have basically left is pretty much the core engineers who are definitely the best of the best and the people who are very passionate and adamant about providing value. So land is one of those things too. Like I know you and I have probably spent, you know, I don't know, close to maybe 100 hours talking about land. Talking about what could happen, all of the things that we could tie into it. I put out a document behind the scenes, and I think only you and Dave and Matt were the ones to see it. Which I'd spent like a couple weeks going around talking to individual core members of the DAO as well as whales in the ecosystem and just listening basically to what they had to say. And again, I'm not the most avid Splinterlands player, and I think that's really important for my key role here. But what I am is I'm really good at understanding the market portion of it. In fact, other than just being involved in the technology side of things, like I have a real affinity for market making and working with the markets themselves. And we as a community have a tremendous amount of opportunity, like untapped potential, basically, to take advantage of what's available and the fact that we have, I would say, a very aggressive economy of scale that we really haven't done too much with, but we could really do a lot with. And so, there's a couple things that I think, you know, we still have to uncover, but you were talking about payment processing and payment providers, bridging, is one that we've talked about, creating bridges from the BNB pool. But I also think it's very important for, um, at least assets in general and other chains for us to bring more liquidity and capital into the game. Um, and, I think it's going to fundamentally change a lot of the aspects of things like land, right? Where If we have more players coming in, we make it easier for players to onboard. All of these things will have nothing but a net positive for everybody. So, I'm hoping again, to come back to my original notion here, Cryptomancer is definitely the guy for the job on land. He's getting it done. Splinterlands with something like land has basically a green pasture of open opportunities. The people who are most involved seem to all know where they want this to go and the potential that it has. And we as a group have a lot of planning that we need to do, and we got to get a lot of stuff done in order to make it happen. But 2025, regardless of what economic conditions could be anywhere else, I think Splinterlands will actually do very, very well. So I know we have a couple things that we laid out to talk about, but in no specific order. Encouraging people who are part of the community to contribute, also having some form of development alongside with the community, I think will be amazing, right? And then, the DAO taking ownership of certain aspects of this, I think also empowers the DAO to also make decisions about where we go from here. So again, I just, very thankful for the opportunity. I look forward to it. And I think we have a lot to touch base on. So I don't know, where do we get started? Where do we start?
Well, like it's interesting. Like one of the things you just touched on was like the idea of like kind of like encouraging like the open source contributions and community development, and like this is something that like I've actually like there's some things that like I still want to see, but like I am starting to see a little bit of this trickle in, especially like I would say it's almost like an unintended. Well, I guess like I don't want to say unintended, but like it's like a proxy result from getting validators live is now that we're having like top voted validators. Like you see like Peak Monsters is putting out stuff. You see like basically there's like a block with like Index, Crypto Eater, and Bam Lolix. Like they're putting some stuff together. Like just yesterday they were like reaching out to me that they finally put up like an account security alert system through Discord. So basically like people can go in, they can like talk to a bot, and like they'll tell the bot like like let's say like I want to use it. So I'll go in, I'll talk to the bot, and I'll say like unstaking alert for account Playboy, right? And like what it'll do is dude, it's quick. Like it's like
Yeah,
they're like clearly like observing like head blocks or something, because
awesome.
dude, I'm telling you, like I tested it, so like I wanted to figure out like how quickly it would notify me if like a card got unlocked. Dude, it's like the same block. I'm getting a Discord DM. Like as soon
That's
as like I
awesome.
click that button, like within 2 seconds, I've got a Discord alert saying like cards are being unstaked, and I'm like, like this is good. Like this is like one of those like I think of it as like a third party account security tool, right? Because like
Yeah,
there's lots of things that like whenever you get into Web3, it gets really difficult to do, right? Like especially with any kind of degree of decentralization. Like a lot of people are always like, well, why don't you just have two-factor authentication? And it's like two-factor authentication is great in theory, but it has holes, right? Like you can spoof phone numbers, you can like get seed phrases, things like that. But like the big problem with 2FA is ultimately it's a centralized service, right? So like as much as like a lot of people like 2FA, it like fundamentally on a functional level does not work with blockchain. Like
yeah.
it can work with like centralized accounts related to blockchain, but like even with something like Hive, if you were trying to build a 2FA for Hive, it would have to basically figure out some way to calculate based on like the best way I could figure it out, because like I actually went down this rabbit hole a while. Like you would have to figure out like the hash of like the current block, and then you would have like a 30-second timeout. It would be like really crazy. If somebody could ever figure out how to actually do it and make it work, dude, like that would be amazing. But like there's so many things you have to account for. Like you have to account for like, well, what if there's a fork? What if there's a micro fork? What if there's like all the
So
different things that can go wrong with the blockchain.
touching base on that too, I actually have a friend. His name is Michael Turpin. He's out here. He used to be out here in Los Angeles. He moved to Puerto Rico. He was also one of the big guys in EOS, right? Really early on, good friend with Brock Pierce. If you look up Michael Turpin, Terpin versus AT&T Mobility, back in 2017, he got SIM swapped because he had his 2FA hooked up through his mobile phone. They got into his mobile phone, hijacked his 2FA efforts, took over his wallet, and stole $24 million from him in Bitcoin. And he actually won the case back in 2018 against AT&T. And now, obviously, Bitcoin's worth a lot more than it was back in 2017 when it originally happened. But yeah, check it out if you get a chance. It's kind of a famous story about SIM swapping and how people got hacked. And like, even if you try to be like, I don't know, I can't share it here, unfortunately, but I think some of the people like Dave have seen kind of our risk roadmap that we created when I first came on at Splinterlands, and one of the big things there was negating 2FA for certain aspects of how we manage our wallets and keys behind the scenes. So I agree 100%. Also, like, you know, there's a different level of responsibility that comes in when you're managing funds like this. And I mean, it was probably pretty scary for you guys, especially too, when Safe got hacked, or there was that supposed Safe hack, right? That just happened.
Yeah,
Um, man,
that
oof,
was
yeah,
pretty terrifying.
that's brutal. Yeah, oh,
Well,
it's
no,
brutal.
like
It's so scary.
I don't know, man. Like
It's the
that
worst.
situation, like the more I learned about it, like really kind of pisses me off because it feels like Bybit was just trying to like look for a scapegoat, and they tried to throw it all on Safe.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah, definitely. But like,
yeah, yeah,
it's still terrifying, right? I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
we were trying. You guys were struggling, and I know you were so frustrated, but it was terrifying too at the same time. Imagine being one of the guys that's safe too, waking up to that and just seeing that you're getting thrown under the bus. Oh God. But yeah, I mean, we have to be careful. Again, just years of experience has really kind of noted. You know, you have like I have a completely offline set of. They're not servers for the most part, but they are machines that run here that are basically sitting in a small Faraday cage for the most part. Um, so that I can protect any kind of secrets that I'm tied to. But you know, even then, I've got a couple fail safes. Nobody can really get into it. And
So,
I think we've done a really good job, like a really good job at Splinterlands, believe it or not, protecting what we have.
this is a great opportunity, PJ. So, like anybody listening, redundancy is your friend. Like I'm gonna tell you this because like I'm one of those guys that has like my keys and stuff backed up in like 6 different places, like in multiple countries, shit like that. Dude, like my working laptop, like the one that I use for all this stuff, like the motherboard randomly got fried. It's crazy because like I was using it in Dallas, and then like you know I finished my next leg on my flight, and it doesn't work anymore, and I'm like, crap. So like I have keys backed up in Thailand, I have keys backed up in the U.S., like I have keys backed up in multiple locations, and I have like I said, like I have like 6 copies of keys, and dude, I'm telling you, even with all the redundancy I have, it's still like recovery is a pain in the ass. So like I know like one of the things that I've been doing is like I help people deal with like I had to help somebody deal with some account recovery stuff the other day. You know, like I end up like kind of like getting into situations where I have to help people with a lot of this stuff. But yeah, guys, trust me, I don't care how safe, how smart you think you are. Redundancy, redundancy, redundancy. You need to have backups. Just trust me on this. And like just like what PJ's saying, you need to keep them safe. And yeah, again, like I'm telling you, I've been doing this, like working in crypto for about 12 years now. And like, it's even as cautious as I am, like I still, dude, if I wasn't like overly paranoid, I would have like really got caught with my pants down on a lot of these things. So yeah,
Yeah, not to even harp even more here, but like if you really truly have assets backed up and there's significant value to you, I hate to say this, but like you should probably memorize your keys. And I know it's a pain in the butt. I've done it for 2 different sets. Like it seemed like I kind of try to memorize everything I have that's a backup. But we had the fires here in Los Angeles, and a couple of my friends who are big crypto investors, when I say lost everything, I mean they lost everything, and one of them actually took his own life because the loss was so devastating. And he had his keys printed on those supposedly like fireproof discs that have everything burnt into it. And it wasn't that they were, when his house burned down, he couldn't find them. That was it. Like even though he thought he took all the right precautions and had a fireproof safe, the safe didn't really become fireproof, and it was either stolen or lost. And I don't know, it's really sad. It's really tragic, but that's the ultimate backup, is memorizing to the extent of what your seed phrase is and what your private key is. And that's, anybody that has significant value should really just learn how to protect that, because nobody can take that away from you. And it's actually something, I hate to say it, but a lot of the bad people in crypto have learned how to do that, because if you're mitigating funds and you don't want any government body to be able to take it from you, then you just store it in your head and they're never going to be able to get it. At least not in our
Yep.
lifetime, hopefully. So
Yeah.
um
That's the ultimate goal, is like if you can memorize it. I mean, like I think things like Ledger make that easier, but then again, like I
they
still,
do.
dude, like I'm still paranoid even when it comes to stuff like Ledger, man. Like I'm just gonna
Yeah,
be
sing it
honest.
in a
Like,
song. Yeah, I just learned how to sing it in a song, right? So like, I'll pick a song. Like one of my favorite songs to chill to is "The Girl from Ipanema," right? Like Stan Getz and Astrid Gilberto, right? Like I'll sing my private keys to a song like that, and I know it's dumb and it sounds kind of corny, but it works so damn well. It's like singing the alphabet, right? So you just pick something, do it over and over. After about 15 times of doing it, you'll actually remember it pretty quick, and then you won't ever forget it. It'll just be ingrained, right? But
well,
anyways,
but
sorry to go off on a tangent.
Banana says AI is going to be able to read our minds within a couple of weeks or months anyway. So
Yeah,
I guess we're only as good as our AI overlords let us.
yeah, well, whatever. I mean, yeah, true. And then quantum computing is going to destroy the blockchain, even with quantum safe computing, like, or quantum safe
Yeah.
encryption, QSE. Like, I don't. Yeah, we'll see. And you know what? If that's the case, then we're all going to live in nirvana, and AI is just going to cater to our every needs, or it's going to take us out. So it's going to
I,
become pretty black and white what'll happen, and then your keys won't even matter at that point. So
yeah, I store all my quirks on a qubit. Thank you. But
yeah, there you
that's it.
go. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
So
I don't want to take away from the conversation. There's a couple bullet points, if you don't mind. Can I read them off? Things that I wanted to talk about
yeah.
today
Go
that I
ahead.
thought would be really important. Okay. All right, excellent. Because we're like 30 minutes deep already, and even though I love talking with you, we got typically it's old business before new business. I learned this. I'm actually I became a Freemason back in, oh God, what year was it? 2004, 2005. I
Uh
was raised out
oh.
here at Lodge 289. So
Conspiracy
there's
theories.
a method to our
Conspiracy
madness.
theories incoming.
Incoming, yeah, no. I would say that we should have opening ceremonies like they do. The opening ceremonies are some of the coolest shit you'll ever see, and there's like a real good. It's dope. Like you have the master of the lodge, you have all your wardens, right? They all have a part of the ceremony to open up and close the meeting, but it's always old business before new. And or as we would normally say, tell them what you're going to tell them, tell them what you told them, right? So I think the things that are hyper important here is obviously we want to talk about validators and hopefully get into some of the um, conversations that have been happening around validators. The next would be the potential for a perpetual license for the DAO, right? Which I know we've talked about being hyper important. Strengthening on-chain governance, which I think also just kind of boils into validators. Cross-chain development, especially with bridges. The opportunity for a DAO-owned marketplace, if that's something the DAO is considering, because I know one of the large things that we get hit up about all the time is how does the DAO make money, right? Any kind of potential ecosystem partnerships that may exist. We've also talked about this to some extent. Expanding the governance and the utility of the token SPS, because expanding utility as well as expanding its reach is something that actually is a major price correlating positive across the board. And then establishing better and more clear roadmaps, right? It's not my job, it's the DAO's job, but you know, I am a servant to the DAO as of right now. So I would love to talk about where we go from here and how we do it and see what people say. So
Awesome.
is that okay?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, first one, validators, right? First off, like the validator team and also working behind the scenes with some of the people who have been contributing to the efforts has been, I think, a overall extremely positive experience for the community, not for us, but for the community. Because there are a lot of hard questions and a lot of hard opinions about how things are done. And to be honest, like the best people to work with are the ones that challenge you on your fundamentals, right? And there are a lot of people that are very staunch about how they think things should be done, and it's all part of the process of trying to well define the mean, or what we call the modus operandi, the mode of operation, right? So I'm very very grateful for the opportunity for us to get this out. I think we did, with obviously timing being an issue here, but and cost and budget and everything else that goes into it. I think we did it. You know, I'd say we, as a community, I think we did all the right things. Granted, you know, hindsight always being 2020. There's ways to improve, and we can talk about those improvements. And I'd be very happy to discuss in almost a Scrum style fashion here, where I think we could have done a better job. And you know, at the same time, congratulate all the people who did the work and people who were contributing to this. I know that there's a couple groups behind the scenes who contributed to the testing as well as some of the development. And I would love to see more of that. And I don't want anybody to be discouraged because the product is out to not think that this is where it stops, because this is actually just where it begins. So, first off, I want to quell some of the stuff around what a L2 is versus a L1, as far as the way that these systems work, right? Validators, in the core of the name, is validation, right? Which means at any point in time, you can validate basically the state of something that exists on a chain. Validators are not meant to be a consensus mechanism, and never, ever do you want to build a consensus mechanism on top of an already delegated proof of stake consensus mechanism. And I want to be very clear as to why you do not do that. So if you look in the original validator documentation, Matt talks about SPS tokens and how the foundation itself runs on a delegated proof of stake network. And I think one of the things that we could have done a better job of explaining is that Hive is already delegated proof of stake, right? Anything that happens on Hive, even if we were to build a consensus mechanism on top of that, would still be subject to Hive. So what you're basically doing is you're artificially building consensus on top of an already existing consensus mechanism. So that's not how you want to do things. And there's one very, very particular reason why. And this is why other chains often fork off of like big chains like Ethereum in order to do you know, improved versions of consensus, like optimism, for example, for Ethereum, right? Because what happens is you have a bunch of decentralized nodes that are all trying to figure out what's truthy and what's not truthy, right? We call it truthiness, right? And this is part of what makes the DPoS system so important, is that you have people who are staking their assets to basically provide truthiness or provide some method of value that says, hey, I'm willing to stake my value to assure you that I'm telling the truth. Because if I don't tell the truth, then the asset that's backing all of this loses its fundamental value, right? So you'll see this a lot of times with like Lido, for example, on Ethereum, where usually there's like some underlying cost, like 100 ETH in order to run a node and contribute in order to earn rewards, right? And so ours is a little bit different because we have these licenses. We don't have the assets tied to it. But in our validation nodes, we use a license, basically a validator license, in order to stake the value of what we have towards validating the truthiness of what happens on Hive, right? So, in the reason why you don't build additional, basically delegated proof of stake on top of an existing DPoS system is because at any point in time, you can have information from two mining pools conflict. And what will happen is you'll get so many blocks down into the chain itself, and you have these things called reorgs, right? A reorganization. And in reorgs, what happens is the chain finds out that two systems are conflicting in the information and the validation of the transactions that are happening. And very quickly, they will revalidate the truth of the state of the chain and change the order that the blocks render in, right? And if you ever do like transactions on older chains, you'll notice that they'll wait till they get X amount of verifications, like 35 verifications, in order to say that the transaction has cleared, right? And it's not that it's finality, it's that it's statistically improbable that the transactions will reorganize after a certain amount of blocks have been contributed, meaning that all of the validation that's gone into it provides some layer of total overall statistical probability that things will not change. And I know that's a lot to take in, but you can't build a proof of stake on top of that, because if the truth changes at some point and you've already finalized your truth, then what you have is an artificial layer that will take 3 or 4 times as long to validate transactions that may change at any given point in time in the state of the chain. So sorry, that's a lot of words there. But at any point in time with validators, someone can fire up a node, and one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we did was made it really fast for people to sync blocks down from the R2 instance that we have up on Cloudflare, which has been kind of a pain in the butt, to be honest. And it's also pretty costly. And thank you to Matt for allowing us to carry that on the Splinterland side. But you should be able to, at any point, go through all of the transactions and revalidate the state of SPS at any given point in time. And that's extremely important, especially in the decentralization of the ecosystem and granting people the ability to not rely on Splinterlands as a source of truth, but rely on the validators, which is now a decentralized ecosystem, in order to validate the source of truth. So hopefully, Clay, I didn't just give you word salad, but hopefully that made a little bit more sense.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, I'm I genuinely understand a lot of this stuff, but I think a lot of people are probably gonna like just glaze over. But this is it's interesting. Like so a couple of things to touch on there. Like we actually like one of the validators is now running like and hosting their own backup service. So like
Yep.
so like there's there I think it's every 12 hours and they're keeping like the most recent 14. So like you have a week of backups. So like hopefully at some point like we can transition like even that stuff away from the company on any kind of like meaningful level. And again, like this ties into like the community developing value around like the ecosystem here. Um, but yeah, ultimately, and like we actually we have a new version. Like this will be a consensus breaking version that we're probably going to release in about 2 weeks. I was talking to Steve about it earlier. I'm going to make a post, I think on Monday. He wants to make sure there's nothing else he wants to include before he, I guess, like releases the new candidate. and then like I'll make a post on Hive just to, like let everybody know that we're signaling for an update. But yeah, like stuff like what you were talking about there with basically like the way delegated proof of stake consensus actually works, and why an L2 validator cannot be a should not and really cannot be a consensus mechanism. Well, it would be fundamentally broken, and like the level of lag you would need to make it like actually be effective. Like I think you would have to run, what is it, like 20 blocks behind.
Yep.
But
I mean,
yeah,
it's all statistically probable
yeah,
after X amount of blocks. Like, yeah, it's just a statistical probability of things changing is higher. Sorry, the less likely it is to happen every block that passes by.
yeah.
Right.
So like I get it, and I think if people want to learn more about this stuff, like yeah, I mean you can always like reach out and talk to us, or if you guys have questions, drop them in the chat, and PJ and I can talk about it. But yeah, like in general, like that's the easiest way to describe it is like the layer two validation is basically, I had somebody who was like asking me like what the value proposition of this thing is the other day, and I'm like, well, like here's my biggest one, and here's a prime example, right? Like I'm somebody that is like fairly familiar with this stuff. I've been doing it for years. Like I have done blockchain forensics, like hunting down like hackers and like looking for lost transactions, things like that, like rooting out suspicious activity. Like I am fairly familiar with this stuff, and like when I'm telling you, it took me 4 months and like multiple people to audit SPS to even get an idea of like where we were off and everything. Like you guys don't understand. Like even just having the validator itself, making it to where anybody can look and see how much SPS is where at any given moment is so critical, and like it's actually one of the things like that we needed to be able to get updated on CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko, which are two companies that I've been going back and forth with because well, for some reason like they don't seem to understand that we're on Hive. But yeah, basically like they now that we have a block explorer, I'm actually working with Royal Eagle on this because some of this, like basically, I think originally the company is the one that like set up the contacts with CMC and
Yeah.
CoinGecko, so there's like some overlap there. But we're working on it. It's just like that's one example. But I mean, like ultimately, there's a lot of things that come with having the validators and like the actual like decentralized equal access of knowledge. Like one of the things that we also want to talk about today is like, can the DAO set up bridges? And like one of the big things for me is like currently, Transac is working with the SPS token to bridge stuff in and out of the game, and like every one of those transactions is a net negative impact on our ecosystem, in my opinion, right? And like we shouldn't think about it like that, but like if every transaction has some tiny fraction of SPS going to a third party that's ultimately selling it, why wouldn't we want the DAO doing the same thing and instead either just like burning the tokens or sending the tokens to the DAO for a lockup? Like, why would we want to extract any value from the ecosystem, especially when it's like a percentage of tokens moving in and out? And like that's something that like has been on my mind for like years now. I know like we've talked about it a lot, and validators make this possible, right? Because you're not going to run a bridge and trust a third party API, in my opinion. Like,
No,
you
not at all.
yeah, like because it just opens you up to attack.
So I want to be very clear too about why validators are so important. It's because for this whole time, Splinterlands was the source of truth. That's it. Straight up. Like that's how are we supposed to be running a foundation if we can't decentralize and democratize the truthiness behind the actual token? Like you just can't. That's it. Like it doesn't that is fundamentally defeats the whole purpose, right? Like can't have Splinterlands be in charge of something that is a decentralized asset. Period. Like it was one of the first realizations that I came to understand very quickly when I first came on board at Splinterlands, and I understood the immediate value of making something where the truthiness of the SPS token, the state of SPS, needed to be in the hands of the people that are basically making the decisions around what it is, right? And there's a lot of cool things that we can do. First off, now you know the state of SPS tokens, which anybody can do now. We don't have to rely on an API necessarily from Splinterlands. But with this in tow, and I would really encourage people who are a part of this to push for, is to make the entire API for Splinterlands run on something similar to a validator, right? Where all transactions can be basically verified. And if you want access to an API because you're going to do some hardcore mode playing or something like that, or you want to run analytics or check wallet balances, that at some point in the future, we would just be able to run a validator node. And then guess what? Validators has provided even more value to everybody and have more of a reason. Another thing is too, is that, running Hive nodes is expensive. It's not cheap. It's not easy either. Even Hive engine nodes, incredibly expensive. So having an L2 that is a little bit less, let's say significantly less costly, but also the ability to attach your ability to earn from being a part of the ecosystem is a major part and a major step forward in the right direction for us as a community and for the value of SPS moving on, and also the opportunity for people to participate in expanding and developing on top of what is here. So now we have something that's tangible, it's fundamental, and has a lot of opportunity. And it's something that the community can take advantage of, where we don't have to rely on Splinterlands necessarily. Although, granted, we're all here because of Splinterlands. Like that's definitely what we're trying to do. But we have some ownership and some onus on what happens and where we go from here, and it doesn't require the Splinterlands team to negate or to take time away from completing the projects that they have. So it's very exciting. I'm very happy again to be of service here. I'm just glad it's here finally, and that it's up and that it's running, and I'm glad to see all the commotion. As they say, motion creates emotion on the sales floor, right? So like people doing things and the conversations that happen, just all in all, will benefit us in total. Even though I know some people are purveyors of dissent, for the most part, we have a lot of really great people who are coming to the table with great ideas and having conversations behind the scenes. I've also noticed a major uptick in the amount of Splinterlands content I see coming out, with thanks to the marketing efforts and the people behind the scenes at Splinterlands, but also just the community in general and the amount of things that there are to discuss. It's like a social currency in itself that people now have kind of a better understanding, which all in all just helps us all out, right? So I'm just glad to see it happening, and very excited to see where we go from here. But you touched point on another thing, which was one of the talking points here, which was discussing bridging and how important bridging is. And I agree. I think absolutely that we should begin working on at least, well, we've done it in the past, and Splinterlands runs bridges, but I have contracts to integrate SPS token across not just BNB, but to also expand on multiple chains. And what I would like to see is the DAO run its own bridges, as well as making an open source library for managing bridges and running bridges for anybody else that wants to participate in the liquidity provisioning and the capitalization of the SPS markets. Because I think everybody here who wants to participate has the same opportunity, right? Equality of opportunities doesn't necessarily mean equality of outcomes, but everybody has the same opportunity here, because these are DAO efforts now. They're not Splinterlands efforts. This is a us as a we and like the community effort here. to improve the capacity for people to build on top of what we have. Bridges are a fundamental for capital formation inside any chain. Hive is probably one of the things, like I can go and talk to VC groups all day long and to other chains. Like there are other chains that would love to work with us, right? But in order to do so, you have to provide a capital bridge for assets to transact across both ecosystems. And this is something I've done a ton of work on, and I have the capacity to put out here for us. But stating whether it's Sol or ETH or any other bridge that allows for multi-asset chains, we create an ecosystem and a service where people can launch their own bridges, and the DAO can manage its own bridge because the DAO is probably the single most valuable source of capital out here, and that the DAO provide it as a service to the people who are trying to get in and out of the ecosystem. But we also need to consider what chains we want to move to and what chains we want to work with and where we're going to source the capital and who's going to participate in that capital formation with us, because a lot of blockchains look at Splinterlands as a damn good use case, right? And as a really freaking awesome community to have baked into their ecosystem. And launching chains is really not that hard. As far as like, and I'm talking from experience here, launching chains like EVM based chains, you can just use EVM deployers to do that, but they are expensive to maintain, right? And just because you have your own chain doesn't mean you have the capital behind it, but there are some great chains out there that have a lot of capital that is untouched, that are looking for use cases, and Splinterlands is a damn good use case, right? So I look forward to that. I think that, you and I have talked quite a bit about next steps and where we go from here. So I would be interested to see what your opinion is on that, and also see if this is something that we do as part of what Jupiter provides right now, because I am very excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the near term we have to, like, bare minimum we're gonna have to get like at least a DAO bridge set up, because one of the things that like I've been working on and spending a awful lot of time on is trying to get that payment processing set up. And the big reason for it is I literally want somebody to be able to pull out a credit card and say, like, I'm gonna buy some SPS, and that SPS ends up in your in-game wallet. So like the all the payment processors I've talked to, like basically none of them are set up with Hive yet, right? And this is one of the reasons why like I took Ramp so seriously, is like I've actually known for like well, I don't even know how much of this like I should talk about. Like I know that they have been in discussions with Hive for a while, right? So like I've known that like that's something that they're working on. I've been talking to a lot of different payment processors, and like the only one that even like knows Hive exists or cares is Ramp. So like it was pretty easy choice to me that like ultimately that's probably who we want to be working with if they're going to integrate Hive. And of course, like I can't guarantee they're going to integrate Hive because I know what the hangup is, but I know that they're trying. And that's one of the things too, is like I was able to negotiate with them that if they do integrate Hive, if when that they're going to support our token transition over to like natively support SPS on Hive, right? And if we
Hmm.
get to that point, then oh, dude, like we're so golden if we can get to that point. But like, well, still like as a stopgap, and also as like a tie-in to the fact that I think the DAO should be managing its own bridges so that we don't have a third party extracting value from our ecosystem every time somebody wants to move tokens. I think it's pretty fundamental that we get that set up probably within like the next month or so, because ultimately what I want is right now you're gonna have to like let's say you put in your credit card, you buy SPS, it's gonna be SPS on BSC, right? Well,
Correct.
in an effort to like get the fees down as low as possible, I think we have to be running our own bridge so that we're not just like extracting to a third party, but also to get the tokens delivered from BSC in game, I think we have to have our own bridge set up, and it might require like a little bit of hackiness, but I don't know. I think it's doable. Like from the conversations we've had, I think it's pretty doable, and they're willing to work with us. So basically, I think within the next 4 weeks, we should have, assuming nothing goes wrong, we should have SPS integration with their platform. Like I said, we paid them yesterday. I got confirmation today they received payment. And again, like all of this is still kind of like falling within my timeline because I want this stuff ready for the Conclave Arcana launch. Guys, I'm telling you, like I don't want to go off on another tangent here, but like you guys think you're excited about Conclave Arcana, yeah? You have no idea.
Mhm.
Like dude, Blaze is trickling. That's all I'm gonna tell you, dude. I think Blaze has a couple of rabbits up his sleeve, but I'm not gonna out him. All I'm saying is, dude, Conclave Arcana is gonna be wild, and we're finally gonna have like some marketing efforts, like actually going into growing the platform. If the DAO can do its job, get easy on ramping, like just like I said, man. The idea that people can just pull out a credit card, pull out Apple Pay, or like use their bank account to just transfer funds, buy SPS, and it ends up in their in-game wallet. Like this is something we've never really had. I mean, like to some extent, Transac kinda does this, but like, dude, Transac is like so unreliable. It seems like it doesn't work for most people. So clearly we need a better partner, and I'm trying to get us multiple so that we have redundancy, and hopefully we don't have people like just getting left out. And again, like for me, like the easy answer is just go buy some Ethereum, just go buy some BNB, and just like, I mean, you don't know how to use a liquidity pool, but like here's the thing, like for me, that somebody that's been doing this for like years is no problem, but like, I mean, we have a lot of guys in our community that aren't like super familiar with this stuff and that like have major concerns about security risk, right? Like if they're not, super confident in their ability to do this stuff, they don't want to lose their money. So like it's easier to just not deal with bridging, to not deal with like liquidity pools. I mean, man, like whenever I see some of our biggest whales asking how to buy SPS, like dude, that tells me we got a problem. And again, like this is one of the reasons why like I've been so adamant about needing to fix some of these problems is because I think that there's like second and third order effects that like a lot of people aren't even really thinking about, right? But like ideally, yes, everybody would know how to use crypto. Everybody would be able to just go and like go to Pancake Swap and buy some SPS if they wanted to. But like the reality of the situation is it's much different. And I think if we can
It's
fix
just
that, yeah.
it's expensive. Let's be real. Like it just sucks. The whole process is just expensive, and any capital that's taking out of people's ability to buy things is just has a negative impact, right? So the more options, the more access, just the overall better it will be. But I do feel sorry for you. I'm not gonna lie. I've been down that road at Splinterlands a dozen times. I know how tough it is, and the conversations are hard to have. And I would, I think Hive, it would behoove them to also be very, very aggressive on the payment integration side as well as the other chain support, right? Um,
Ugh.
but
Man,
I know that
it drives me
resources are
nuts.
limited, right?
It drives me nuts that Hive does not have a RAM token, dude. Like here we are in 2025, and I still cannot go to Uniswap or PancakeSwap and buy Hive. Do you know how like that drives me nuts, man? Like,
Yeah, yeah. And some people are Puritans about this stuff. You know what I mean? Like they'll be very, we do it on our own and we keep it in our ecosystem. But from a perspective of making markets and market making as a service, it's important to have multiple outlets and inlets as well as multiple markets because it promotes volatility, which promotes volume, which in the end typically always results in a more stable asset and a more valuable asset. Um, Yeah, and so you also touch base on another thing, which is how the DAO generates funds. Because I believe right now the number one contributor is still Splinterlands, right? Splinterlands launching products and basically reserving a portion of it for the DAO is the number one moneymaker for the DAO. But I think it's important for us to explore other options here and give the DAO some ability to capitalize itself outside of Splinterland so that it can do more, right? There's a couple different ways that they can do it, right? Bridges being one, marketplaces being another one, and expansions being another one, right? And I don't necessarily hear too much about these things being said, although I do hear a lot of rumblings in the background about the DAO needing to make money. And so I would be very, very interested to hear what people's opinions are about that. Bridges aren't too hard to do, and managing a bridge, although you don't want your bridges to really charge a lot, right? I would say the second most valuable um, market here is, or sorry, is actually markets. Like the second most valuable resource in any of these is basically a market, right? A market. We have a couple that exist on Hive that are great, and the internal markets to Splinterlands are also great. But everybody that's a part of the DAO should be contributing to the DAO's efforts to capitalize itself, and markets are a great way to do that. And third is expanding, right? Expansion upon the resources that we have and building things that contribute value that allow the DAO not to compete with Splinterlands, but to basically enhance the experience of Splinterlands, right? And for the players themselves. So I'm not so entitled to be a part of those conversations, although I would love to be more involved in those conversations. And I do hear some of this stuff across the different channels because I pretty much watch all of the YouTube, podcasters that are out there and hear what they have to say. And I do need to make another round with all of the major whales in the DAO, the DAO controllers right now to get feedback because it's an important part of the life cycle of development that has to happen, right? We call it a OODA loop, which is observe, orient, decide, and act. And in order for me to do that requires input from the key stakeholders, right? But for the most part, I do think that there's a lot of great opportunity. Like I keep talking about opportunities that we have. We need to figure out what we want to do and how we can go about doing these things, and trying to figure out what are the key benefits to the DAO, because the DAO translates directly to the community and to the value of the underlying assets of SPS, right? It's also a major confidence boost, right? Everybody realizes that this is a group effort. And when you have people organized and people can see basically where we're headed, this touches point on another thing too, which is establishing a very clear and transparent roadmap of where we want to go as a DAO, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, Clay, but you guys talk all the time, but do we have a collective roadmap right now of what we want to do and where we want to go? Because if we do, then I'm just not very informed, I guess, and I'm not doing a good job of informing myself. But
I would
um,
say, well, I can easily say no, but like I would say, like part of the problem that we run into, like as a DAO, is getting people to agree on things, right? So it's like we tend to take everything like on a case by case basis, right? So like we're talking about the DAO setting up bridges. So like what this ultimately translates to is I'm probably gonna have to go write a proposal to say like Jupiter's going to build this bridge for us, and we're going to allocate like let's just say we're going to allocate 10 million SPS to the bridge, 5 million each side, and like what we do currently with the Terablock bridging or ZK Sync, whatever they change their name to, is the treasurers have to basically ensure that like we keep liquidity, right? So like if they get too one-sided, then what we do is we have to go and basically like create a transaction from the reserve wallet to move more funds onto one side of the bridge, and then we have to have them send tokens to like the reserve on the other side. But yeah, like ultimately, my goal is if we can take a situation like this where we're like not only dependent on third parties to do this kind of stuff, but we're also dealing with the fact that they extract value from our ecosystem. Like to me, it's like such a win, right? Like, why would you not want um, like the DAO
reclaim
basically,
that value.
yeah,
Yeah.
capture that value for our ecosystem, and we eliminate having to deal like, I'm telling you right now, like I don't know, like you guys don't like have access to everything that like I'm talking about, because some of this stuff is like still centralized to some extent, but like right now we're dealing with they have like a couple of like lost transactions from like when their bridge blipped for whatever reason, and we have to like go through and like argue with them for days to fix it. And it's just like, I would much rather go to the treasurers and say like, like Vogtus or Azarcon's trying to move like a couple million SPS from Pancake Swap to in game, and something got stuck, right? So like we need to go and like here's the transaction. We can verify like where the tokens were supposed to go to the bridge. There's no hive side, so like we can look at this. Like we need to fix this. Like let's go sign a transaction, rectify it, and like I feel like the treasurers even I feel like we have some growing pains with the treasurers, because like we're actually pretty decentralized. We have treasurers throughout the world,
Yep.
but I still think that like ultimately I trust our community to make a better judgment and get better representatives than like some random third party that we're basically just siphoning value out of the ecosystem for. So this is something that like I felt pretty adamant about for a while, and I think we have to see it come to fruition. Especially to even deliver on the idea that you can buy SPS and get it delivered in game. We're going to have to get that bridge set up. But this is
No,
there's always so many moving pieces to juggle, man.
yeah. And I mean, it is all part of being decentralized. And like I said, the roadmap piece is going to be difficult because everybody has a say, but that's why we are a delegated proof of stake. I mean, the people who have the most to stake are eventually going to be responsible for making good decisions. And if they don't, then it translates directly to the value of the asset, right? So, and I said this earlier, some of the most heated conversations that I've had with my coworkers and peers have been in front of a whiteboard where we're sitting there and screaming and yelling at each other. But it's because we are knowledgeable and we know what we're talking. I mean, and then you just have like random idiots, don't get me wrong, but I don't think any of us are those people, right? Especially with the people that have a lot to lose, right? They're speaking passionately about something because the value of what they're trying to protect is directly translated in the decisions that they're making, right? That's the beauty of delegated proof of stake, is if you make a bunch of bad decisions and you lose the most because you have the most at stake, right? So I look forward to it. I definitely want to be involved. But there's a lot of things that, I think our treasurers do a really good job. And I know that they are all uh, brutally having to deal with things like, when the safe wallets got hacked, and it's just like terrifying being in that position because you don't know what's going to happen. So there is there's a definite weight on the shoulder of people who have to basically manage those types of things. But for the most part, it's also part of the silence in all of it is really where you get a like, meaning that you shouldn't have to do too much to interact with the wallets as a treasury group in order to provide value to the ecosystem. In fact, the least amount of transactional capacity, or anytime you have to pull everybody together in order to do something, the less of that have happening, the less likely you are to have errors or mistakes happen, right? So it's also part of the security of the entire ecosystem too. So with that being said, bridges are incredibly important. I would, I think, considering the fact that some of the best information that I hear are from key stakeholders here, I want to do another kind of behind the scenes, just talk to everybody who I originally talked to before we started this, and try to get a better understanding of how their feelings are tying into the progress that we've made. And then hopefully coming back on and discussing a lot of these opportunities with the community to see if we can devise a little bit more clarified and established roadmap for the DAO and for the things that the DAO wants to do. And I think this brings me back to my number one key point here, trying to get a perpetual license to Splinterland's IP, right? I know Matt's probably going to want to kill me for this one, but I think it's super important. I
Well,
think it's hyper
well,
important.
this is actually something that like I brought up with him before too, and you know, like that's one of the reasons why like that recent like is it the one for either the one for Conclave Arcana or the one for Hall of Legends? Like one of the things that like I was basically like pointing out is, I mean, like at this point, like we had the DAO funding development, we had the DAO funding and like hiring the company for stuff. Like at some point, the DAO needs that license, right? And like I think the company's in better shape now that it's been in years, but like
Yeah,
ultimately, like the DAO should have that license in case anything goes wrong. And I mean, I don't even mean like just like the company goes under or whatever, but I mean like dude, we have no idea what anything could happen, right? Like I mean, we're operating in like a weird regulatory space, right? Where it seems like things are genuinely getting friendlier now. But you know, who knows, man? Like I still think having the option, you know, like having the DAO have like a perpetual license would, I mean, and again, like it's not like any of this that like we're talking about would be easy, but like you know, just knowing that like if it comes down to it, the DAO could potentially keep the game running without you know Steam Monsters Inc. Like I think that that's massive. And just to let you know, it seems like Azercon's on board, and he says like you should go ahead and start reaching out to them. So
oh, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah, yeah. Oh man, he had a lot to say too, which was great input, and I kind of just soaked it all up. By the way, I just want to say too, this isn't meant to be like a behind the scenes kind of thing. It's just easy for me to interact with key people one on one and just listen. Like I just listen. And I think Dave, yeah, I see he's talking about survival mode. I I'm man, thank you for that, Azurkhan. He said, also, PJ, if you remember that I was fairly skeptical when you first suggested survival mode. I continued to argue with Vugtis about until very recently. That said, I'm pleasantly surprised with the survival mode. I stand corrected. I do too, because actually, we wouldn't have gotten this unless you guys would have contributed to it. And to be honest, skepticism is always appreciated. I know people have been skeptical of Jupiter's capacity here. I kid you not, we're really good people. And I'm not speaking for myself, I'm speaking for the team members. But you guys contributed to that. And the amount of feedback that we got, like I said, arguing with people who are passionate about something that have something at stake is absolutely critical to developing a better product. And it doesn't, I'm not always right. I'm maybe right more than I am wrong, but I'm not always right. And it's best to talk to individuals on a one-to-one level, face to face, not behind a Discord server, but actually sitting there and looking at my facial expressions and trying to understand things that make people mad, and things that make people happy. Because at the end of the day, we're all trying to do what's right and do right by the community, right? So, and to be honest, Clay and Dave can probably attribute to this too. There was a massive, like 36-page document that I ended up putting together around all of the things that could happen with a survival mode, which included bringing in the bot makers and bringing in the people. Fuck this, you should have trusted me. Yeah, exactly right. We should give him just the keys of the kingdom. No, I'm just kidding. But no, there's more to be expanded on, because after listening to the ideas around these conversations, I'm not trying to put more work on anybody's plate. I'm just trying to explore the things that can happen that we should consider with the opportunities that we have. And one of them, to just be quite frank, was like, we know people are going to always try to bot, right? Period. And if, like, I have this saying, and you'll hear me say it over and over and over again, you should always make your competitors, let them focus on you while you focus on the next thing you have to do. But when it comes to competitors, always try to turn your competitors into customers, right? Somehow there's got to be a way where you can take someone that's competing with your MO and turn them into someone that's going to contribute to your bottom line. And so the idea behind this actually came from a conversation between Azurcon and Vugtis, because I talked to them both independently, and a couple others. I think Gold Matters was another one, where people are always going to try to bot Splinterlands. So rather than trying to fight bots, which has had a very negative effect on the price of SPS, believe it or not, because you can see a direct correlation between botting and the price of SPS. Even though I know it terribly dilutes gameplay, which is not good. And gameplay is ultimately the thing that Matt is going to focus on. There has to be a way where we can encourage bots to play in a format that expands the number of cards that are used, because I think we're almost at 200 million assets that exist in Splinterlands, right? Or maybe it's 100 million. I can't remember. My brain's shot at this point from talking about assets, but as long as you can lock up those assets and actually prevent them from being moved anywhere, it's going to increase the value of those assets. And if you can create an ante format where people have to ante into something like the poker game, basically, that is a mass scale bot style playing, but was designed to be fun that way, even the small guys could participate. They just wouldn't be participating at scale. And what you would basically have is a war between the bot manufacturers to create better bots all the time, which in turn would bring more money to the ecosystem and more money to the game and more value and more developers and more competition, right? And so when this idea of survival mode came out, it basically was a lock on assets, and the designation of putting assets up for stake that they could be basically killed and go into a graveyard is one of the key reasons why Magic the Gathering is so fun, because that's what happens with Magic cards, right? They go into your graveyard basically. So, and this conversation obviously is far expanded beyond what we're currently doing right now, but think about that, right? Because the more amount of cards you have doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to win more, especially when you have competing bots at scale, right? It actually comes down to the amount of support you have from other people and how good their cards are and how good their botting is. And you could tie this directly into land and make it a value proposition that also brings the price of land assets up too, right? So you're talking about a very large scale, multi-week battle format that soaks up millions of cards and requires bot makers to compete with each other to make better bots, and also should have a direct cost introduction into these formats that also soaks up SPS, right? So that people are putting something at stake that has a direct correlation to the outcomes of these things, and all of a sudden you're in a bot's arms race, in a gameplay arms race. And I'm sorry, my dogs are barking in the background, so if you hear them, I apologize. But this was a much broader conversation that happened. And unfortunately, I didn't get to share the details of that because I didn't want to scare anybody in the community, especially about what the idea and what the fundamentals were behind this. But it actually came from my conversation with these guys and just trying to understand how we can improve the asset prices by doing this, and by locking up assets and creating a demand. All of a sudden, you have a real volatile marketplace, which I think ultimately just brings more value to everyone. That's why I say a key critical component to this, and I know we should definitely talk before Conclave Arcana comes to fruition here, but there's a lot of things that we as a community can contribute to, a lot of things that the DAO has the ability to do. But we need some cohesion. We definitely need to argue about it. Like any of these ideas couldn't come to
We
a
are
head unless
experts.
there was salt. Yeah, you guys are
We are
definitely experts,
experts at that. Like we can argue about anything.
right? Oh yeah, and honestly, like this would be a fucking dope game to play if that were the case, right? Like it would just greatly expand, even for new players, right? Like all of a sudden they realize that like, oh, okay, there's this format that I'm used to, like very simple, 1v1. But once you get into that and you dig deep, then you realize, holy cow, there's this other format that is like massive, like almost like a massive multiplayer version of Splinterlands that is all, it's like a nuclear arms race for the most part for intelligence and cards. I think ultimately would be a net, like nobody's doing that. I've never seen a game that does that, right? I've never seen a game in the style of form, or sorry, the format of a card game that does that. And I might be wrong. I could definitely be wrong, but I haven't seen it, and I'm pretty deep in some of these traditional card formats, right? So, and I think that that's also something that directly translated from the conversations that we had with key stakeholders. So I look forward to it. And again, maybe I'm just making stuff up here, but you know, I look forward to it, and I look forward to see what happens. And I'm glad that you guys see the value of hardcore mode. I forgot what we originally named it, but Matt actually came up with the name for hardcore mode. So,
Uh, I the only thing I know is like what I was envisioning, and like it's different, but I don't know. I think it's working, and that's what matters. I mean, like I still would strongly prefer it be tied into land, and who knows? Maybe
100%.
maybe eventually we get there, but
Yeah.
you know, I think it's already showing value as a proof of concept. I mean, there's things that I think need to be tweaked, like at least like a little bit. Like I don't think you should be able to
100%.
see your opponent's battle history or who your opponent is, right? I mean, for example, like I've got like a solid full like modern deck. I've probably got like 2 decks worth of Chaos Legion cards still, things like that, right? But like if I'm going into battle and I'm like, oh look, it's Vugtus, so I'm gonna throw out like a level 1 summoner and a level 1 card to just throw the match. Like I feel like that shouldn't be a viable strategy, but I mean again, like that could just be me. I mean, overall, people seem to be enjoying it. Like, I think that there's things we can tweak to make it like a little bit more efficient. I still want to see like some land tie in there, but ultimately, like all in all, like I'm very happy with what we're seeing so far. And yeah, I'm glad to see, like we even got AzurCon coming around to it because like I know he absolutely hated the idea from like the get go. So
I'm again that you have to have people contribute with a different point of view in order to make it well-rounded. I agree. I would love to see land tied into this 100%. But I don't know if you guys ever seen the movie What About Bob?
oh
There's a
yeah.
book that they talk about baby steps, right? Baby
Yeah.
steps, right?
Well, I mean, it sounds
So
like what we need to do is we're gonna have to go to, I think it's Nebraska. I think Vugtus is in Nebraska, is it? So we'll go up to Nebraska and we'll have like the big Illuminati well meeting, and
I think honestly, I'd like to see more of Vugtis's things that he works on working its way into our ecosystem. Although I don't know how it translates into that, but he knows what I'm talking about because he and I had a really deep conversation about real world assets and decentralized debt and a lot of other cool things that are happening. I don't know how that would translate, but it'd be cool if you could get a mortgage on your land inside of Oklahoma. Um, you could take a
Oklahoma. Okay.
mortgage on your land and build a castle or something. I don't know. It'd be hilarious, but I think it's also pretty dope and pretty bitchin'. Um,
Uh, I always forget
so
if it's Oklahoma or Nebraska.
yeah, one of the two. They're all the same, dude. They all just kind of bleed into each other.
It's
That's
it's
what they
it's
call
all
the
fly.
flyover states.
Yeah, just fly
Yeah,
over.
it's all flyover states. Oh God. Okay, so for the sake and brevity of the people that are listening to us, I think that we've actually done a really good job of touching on point number 6 here too, which was nurturing the ecosystem, but we haven't talked about partnerships. And we have a couple key players here in Splinterlands that I believe their partnerships are duly valuable to what we do. We've got Peak, right? We've got Hive, right? We've got a couple payment providers that we're talking to now. But what do we do from here on out that also brings more value in the hopes of also capturing more players? One of the things that I've been really impressed with are the content creators around Splinterlands. I know I would love to be on more podcasts and talk more about these things because I've only done maybe one appearance across most of these content creators. But man, I think they've been doing a great job. And I do think that bringing in people from other ecosystems as well to discuss what's going on has helped and benefited a lot of other communities. I mean, they used to pull me into Illuvium all the time just to talk shop with Andrew. And I know Andrew's done a lot here as far as marketing efforts and stuff. But I would really like to see what we can do and to hear more ideas around chain partnerships, especially like other chains that can benefit from our bridging, decentralized exchanges that we launched Rooney on Ethereum, right? And we haven't done much with it since then, but the fields are pretty green when it comes to exploring the opportunities there, as well as um, trying to understand if anybody is a part of any other ecosystem, that it would be great for us to just talk, right? And seeing if there is any kind of alignment there, because a lot of us, especially in other chain communities, there's a lot of parallels here with things that we're trying to do. And Splinterlands, again, I always have to commend what a great use case Splinterlands is from an asset, but also from a community perspective, because communities are actually the hardest things to develop, right? And then on top of that, how we can get more open source contribution to the platforms that we have. Oh yeah, the People's Guild for sure. Yeah, B Jangles knows. I am. We could sit here and talk about Splinterlands, but I think he and I would also talk about Wes Anderson films for like 2 hours straight if we had an opportunity to. But yeah, so yeah, I think it's important for us to start thinking and reaching out to see if there is any kind of exploratory foundation in partnering with some of these other communities and trying to understand how we can be more involved. I've been a part of quite a few communities that are sitting on treasury right now that have no use case and are looking for a way to build value, just like our DAO is, right? So I think bringing them in and being involved in exploring if there's any kind of possibility to develop expansions or develop into other chains or to bring assets between different pools, different pool providers, that all of those create opportunity. And so if anybody out there is hearing my call, I would love to hear from you guys about any potential partnerships. I feel like even though now I am doing Jupiter for the DAO, I talk to Matt every week. I have a huge amount of influence inside the company, just from my position, but also because I'm just genuinely intrigued in hearing what people have to say. So if there's anything that you think may be of value, like I'm all ears. I love talking about this stuff, and I spend a tremendous amount of time and effort trying to better understand where we go from here. So I'm just throwing that out there. Most definitely think that we have never really explored the opportunity to go out further beyond other chains than the primary ones, which would be BNB and ETH, right? And I know a lot of people wanted to see some kind of integration with Solana, right? Other chains have hit us up in the past. I think Base Chain is also probably a really good opportunity, right? So, what do you think about that, Clay?
So you're saying we could have based Splinterlands cards?
Yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely, right?
No, like man, I'll tell you, like one of the things that like I've kind of wanted to see for like a long time now is you know, at one point, I mean, I don't know, I guess like on some level in theory maybe it still exists to some extent, but like there was a bridge to where you could move Splinterland's assets to like Ethereum, and like you could go to OpenSea and you could, you know, buy your
Yep.
you know, your holographic first edition gold foil lightning dragon on Ethereum. And man, I'm telling you, like we've already crushed wax. Like we have like I think it's like the top three highest price items like ever sold on Atomic Hub.
Yep.
Like, you know, man, like imagine just Splinterlands, like, you know, you're on you go to OpenSea and you look at like the Splinterlands collection and you see there's like $1 million worth of volume of people just trading cards on Ethereum and then bridging them in game. With Ethereum going proof of stake and you know having so much lower fees now. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to get that back open, but I mean, also like we don't
Right.
have to stop there. Like we can look at other chains. Like I don't know. Like I'll tell you, like I have a lot of concerns when it comes to Solana, and like this is from somebody that's like worked with it and like deals with it and knows like that we have like I don't know. I will tell you this. I think Solana is way better than it was. You know, like I don't know. Have they had any chain halts this year?
No,
I don't.
I don't think they have in a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that they're getting stable. I don't know. They have I don't know. Like I would be open to talking to them at this point. You know, like open to exploring like what we could do together. If we could branch out and like you know maybe you can get you know maybe you can get Splinterlands cards on like a marketplace over there, or you know maybe it's like looking into expanding liquidity pools. Like we open up a wormhole to Solana and. You know, like we get like a Solana SPS LP and like a wrapped version of SPS and Solana that could be huge. You know, I think all we got to do is like, you know, slap like a dog icon on the token and tell people it's a new meme coin, and you know, it totally goes to the moon or something. Hashtag not financial advice. I'm slightly joking, but you know, Solana is complicated for me. But you know, I like I said, I do think that they're moving in the right direction. I do think that there's value to explore there. But I mean, like we don't just have to talk about the big ones, right? Like I mean, we can look at like other up and coming chains. Like man, there's so many like new chains that are like out there now. Like I still don't even like I see the names of some of them. Like what's the one that starts with like an S that like everybody has been like touting this market cycle, like Sile something like that. But anyway, like there's like new L1s coming out that like you know are like I guess if we consider things like Solana and maybe like Wax and EOS is like maybe Gen 3. I guess there's like Gen 4 stuff coming out now. So yeah, like who knows, man? Maybe we pair up with like some of these new up and coming blockchains and see what we can do there. And I mean, you know, if they want to like put up liquidity or they want to like help you know, like support the expenses of developing bridges and things like that, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I was joking here with AzerCon. He said, "No meme coins, please." I said, "AzerCoin? Is that it? Is that where we're going with this? Is that the direction we're headed?"
I don't know.
Oh man.
How much Azure coin do I get if I send out a tweet about it?
Right. Oh man. Look, like I agree. I'm not a fan of the meme coin stuff, but I am a fan of making markets. And I think Vugtis and I actually had a really deep conversation about the importance of this. And there's actually something else that we haven't really talked a lot about, which is new player experience, right? Um, like, damn, we need to really, really focus on how we get more players into the game. And to be honest, we need more wins. Like, I think people being excited about new formats of gameplay and things that are happening is great, and we've actually had a very successful roadmap the last 2 years of getting things out, especially with all the changes that have happened behind the scenes. The company has actually done very, very well, and the DAO has done very, very well compared to other places that I've seen who are, and I'm not trying to give myself any kind of significance here because I think people like Harry behind the scenes and Mark and um, all of the other team members that are on the development team have done a tremendous job. Cryptomancer, um, Josh, like all of these guys. Uh, Even the customer service people in Royal Eagle. Those jobs are stressful trying to manage the expectations of everybody. And call me Tim. Um, I mean, it just, yeah, it's, I got a lot of gratitude for the people who have been working relentlessly to put things out. And to no sake of what I do, my job has always been just more administrative. But these people are really hardworking. They've put out a really great product. It's something to be very proud of and to be proud to be a part of it. And to also look towards all of the great things that we can do in the near future compared to everybody else out there. We just need to figure out how all this greatness correlates to asset values and to correlate to new players, right? Um, yeah, new player experience, right? It's tough, man. It is difficult. But, maybe this
Well,
is also another thing that we
well,
as
I
a
think
community and
something.
DAO members can contribute to.
I think there's something important to point out there, though. Like, I know you may not see it all yet, but like the new player experience is improving. Like it literally is. Do we still
Yeah.
have major pain points? 100%, dude. Like there's like trust me, dude. I got gripes for days. That said, I do think we're making progress, and I do think that there are things coming in the extremely near future that you'll like. I mean, like to the point where I think, yeah, like I feel like we definitely talked about this in the last town hall, but like yeah, like there's new player experience coming, and like this is something that like again like you guys don't know like 100% of like what I do every day, but like I do all this stuff for the DAO. I do a lot of like overlapping work with the team. Like I'm working with people like Royal Eagle. Like dude, whenever PJ is telling you like these people are working their ass off, man, like dude, like I'm pretty sure Royal works 7 days a week, and you know why? Because like I'm
Yep.
usually here with, like you know what I'm saying, like, and it's not just him, dude. You got people like Harry that are like, dude, like I can message Harry at like 2 a.m. on like a Sunday, like, hey, dude, like I like oops, like we had something like mess up, and he's like, oh crap, let me go jump on it. Like, I mean, these aren't just people here collecting a paycheck, man. Like, I would say, like, the people that are left are the people that, like, genuinely care if this stuff succeeds. And, like I said, dude, like, am I 100% happy with everything? Never. Like, I always think we could be doing better. And, dude, I think if you ask them, they'll probably tell you I'm one of the most critical people when I'm going into these meetings and I'm telling them, like, you need to do better. I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
Matt
you
will probably
definitely you
tell you,
definitely make it known. Yeah.
yeah, dude, like, I
Definitely
mean,
let us know.
yeah, like dude, whenever I feel like we're really missing the mark, dude, like I mean, I'll go to Matt and like I'll tell him exactly what I think, and like sometimes he agrees, sometimes he doesn't, but like I'm telling you because like overall we're moving in the right direction, and I do think that like some of the biggest pieces of the puzzle, like I try not to talk too much about what the team's doing because I'm not always 100% sure what all has like come out publicly, but I do feel confident like they've been talking about like the campaign mode, right? Like so like this isn't like some like breaking news. I'm pretty sure I remember at the last town hall they talked about campaign mode. So like I know some of what's going on there. And a lot of this is like actually stuff that I've been telling Nate for like multiple years, like man, like we really need to start getting some of this stuff done. And like seeing it come to fruition and like know that it's coming and I'll tell you, like, I was one of the guys like screeching like this has to be done before Conclave Arcana. So like, trust me, dude. Like I think they get it. I think they understand like why it's so important, and you know, like I think that the time frame is happening. So like, I get it. Like I hear your complaint, and like I'm not saying I disagree with it, but I do think that the problems are being solved, and my hope is that we're gonna see something within the next month or so. But like again, I can't guarantee you team release dates. All I can tell you is I am probably one of the most critical people like in the community, and I know you guys don't see that because I don't like this. This isn't something I throw out there publicly, but like behind the scenes, like I'm right there with a lot of you guys, and I am like communicating all the feedback that I get. Like I kind of a lot of ways think of myself as like a point person with the community. And I think of Royal as this too, right? Because like Royal and I both get a lot of
Slack.
direct communication. Well, not only that, like yeah, like when something goes wrong, people like to like message us and complain. But like, it's not just that. Like, I feel like we're probably two of the most like tapped in people in the community. You know, like people DM us
Yeah,
like all the
definitely.
time. So
I,
I
let me
can tell you, dude.
let me
You,
expand on
yeah,
this too. Like, one person I didn't congratulate was Ulid. Also, like, the expansion and bring. So, like, it's not just about new players; it's about old players coming back too, right? Um, so what that means is like we have a huge community in terms of crypto communities, right? For a couple years in a row, we were the most used decentralized application in the world, right? What we need to do is we need to give them a reason to come back. And usually it's typically asset prices is the number one thing, but I think we could do better, right? Like gameplay. It comes down to can we play the game and is it fun, right? And so we've been doing a really good job promoting new this
uh,
works are also welcome to come back and we need to encourage those people to come back. And it's not, people might feel slighted because they bought assets that are worth less now today, but that's almost all of crypto except for the primary coins. Like almost every crypto game at least has seen that happen. I mean, you can actually go and directly correlate search on Google to asset prices. So if you just pull up all of the search history for all of the biggest crypto games and plot a chart of asset prices over the search volume, you'll see a direct correlation. Like there's no doubt about it, right? And we as a community need to do a better job of just being positive, period. Social currency is something that is extremely valuable, and that's having things to talk about. And one thing I've learned from doing market making and working with large funds is the sociological aspect of it. There's a term called reflexivity, which was coined by George Soros back in the Alchemy of Finance back in 1984, which is the perception of the market has a direct correlating factor to impact the market. And people make decisions based on what they think is going to happen, not what they see happening, right? Which means if I'm a big whale and I sell my assets because everybody knows I'm a big whale, right? They'll all sell their assets because they don't want to be the last one holding the bag. And we as a community need to do a better job of promoting, even if we don't agree with it, but still contributing to the positive uh, social sentiment. And yeah, we can argue behind the scenes. That's fine. It's all good. It's absolutely necessary. But our social currency needs to be better. Like we just need to do better as a community and not be so hard on ourselves because this is extremely hard. This is all stuff that's actually to some extent has never been done before. So there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of capitulation that happens too. We've seen the capitulation, right? So, again, like it's important and it's important to have the right messaging. And people share their wins and they typically don't share their losses. Um, so, people who have lost in Splinterlands typically will just leave and not talk about it. But we need to get those people back because not only are they important to us, hopefully Splinterlands will be important to them. And we need to do better messaging and be better about the way that we do it because it does have a direct correlation. And there's nothing that could be said that would change my mind otherwise, because this is exactly the same reason that you have, all the Wall Street bet guys betting on a company like GameStop, and all of a sudden it makes it, worth, 50x what it was worth before. Um, so, again, a lot of things that we can do better as a community too. It's not just about Splinterlands, it's not just about the DAO, but it's about all the people who are involved, right? So with that being said, like, we need to create the positive sentiment. We can bring those players back who are already familiar with Splinterlands. Hopefully they'll see all the things that have changed and been done. And then on top of that, we can get new players in. What was it? Magic the Gathering um, is a multi-billion-dollar company. It's a card game. You know what I mean? We actually have an even further reach than they do, and a much lesser cost than the physical infrastructure that goes into something like that. And I would love to see this grow into something that's of similar size and value. It just takes time. Everything goes through growing pains. We're still relatively new, even though we're considered in blockchain speak to be kind of dinosaurs here. There's a lot that we can do, and honestly, it all starts with the individuals and making it worthwhile. Not being a toxic community is one of the great places. It's one of the great ways to get people to come back, right? I don't know how many people we have on this Discord server, but it's a lot. It's a lot. This Discord server is extremely valuable. I don't know how many guilds are in this Discord server, right? So, with that being said, we too can do a better job, and I think it's really important. And I think that also touches base on one of the other things that was important for us to talk about. I know we've been going at this almost for 2 hours now, but strengthening on-chain governance and nurturing the ecosystem partnerships. I think we've done pretty good coverage of those, so I can check those off the list, right? Unless there's anything else specific to those two that we want to talk about. Anything you could think of regarding
Oh
those 2
no, I
points there,
mean,
Clay, that we want to?
yeah, I mean, I think we pretty much covered. Like one of the things that I'll say, just like kind of like touching on some of the comments, like again, like I don't think I think we can all pretty much agree like everything wasn't done perfectly in the past. I do think that like, in general things are moving in the right direction. I'm dude, like I'm this is the most excited I've been uh just about like everything that I know is going on probably ever. Like I'm gonna be honest, like I was pretty hyped before Chaos Legion, but dude, like all I'm gonna tell you guys is you don't even know, right? Like I mean, if you want my opinion, you know what the best marketing is, and like you've got guys like me, Blaze, and Dave, like every day, just like cooking up more for you, right? But like, yeah, God, I don't know. I don't even want to start this talk. Let's just say people winning is the best marketing, right? Because when
$100%.
people start winning and really, really winning, they're going to be out there telling people, and other people are going to want to win too. So that's all I'm saying. Like I think we're going to see some interesting things with Conclave Arcana, and I'm looking forward to it. Like you guys already know about like the new black foil, and since Blaze spilled the beans, they're going to be max level black foils when you open them. But maybe Billy Mays will show up. That's all I'm saying. So we'll see.
Yeah. So I think the last point on here, and I'm watching what AzurCon's um, posting here, and I couldn't agree more. There's got to be asset syncs for all of the things that he's posting here. And maybe that translates into some form of better token utility and expanded governance for the token that we have. We don't, or at least I haven't been involved in too many conversations that expand on the utility of SPS token. And SPS is the core of the SPS DAO, right? By the way, I bought the DAO, the SPSDAO.com domain. It just happened to be available. And, you know, I'd love to get a simple website up that represents the things that are happening with the DAO, and maybe a more intuitive roadmap for SPS and the foundation itself. And I'm turning all this stuff over to the DAO, by the way. I have no intention of holding on to any of this stuff. I just made sure it was secure and got everything set up. Because I want to see this. I got a lot of vested interest in making sure this stuff works and that it's all buttoned down. But I want to understand what we want to do here. Like, we have this opportunity. We've got a oh, dude, that guy is one of the funniest people on the internet. Tony, yo, it's your homie Tony, right? What's up, homie? This is Tony, right? He's like one of my favorite people of all time. The sign guy, if you guys haven't seen him on Instagram, absolutely hilarious. One of the biggest trolls in the world and probably one of the funniest people on earth. But anyhow, like I said, I just, maybe we can have another conversation about where we go from here with SPS, right? There is a market making, how to expand on the markets for SPS that I put back together. And you've seen it before, right, Clay? My market making for SPS, right?
Yep.
The presentation that I put together, that went behind the scenes to all of the key players at Splinterlands. And I think I've shared it with quite a few of the whales here, about how to expand on the markets. But more importantly, and I think Vugtis was really kind of adamant about it, we need more players in order to make these markets substantial, which I agree with 100%. But we can do that a couple different ways: getting old players back, right? Expanding to new ecosystems and bringing in their communities as well, and working with other communities, maybe even working with Hive to do this, right? Having Hive also expand alongside with us, so it's a twofold benefit to anybody that works with us, because they get Hive and they get Splinterlands, right? And trying to figure out what the roadmap is for the fundamental utility of SPS, right? Governance, that's fucking great. Like, that's awesome. But there's a lot more than governance, right? There's the value prop, right? There is the community prop behind it that comes along, where the community can benefit. There's grants. There are other things that we could do now that we've got, the idea of a foundation established, as well as bridging, right? Markets. There's a lot of things. So if anybody has any kind of contribution here, I'm willing to sit down and talk. And also, I'm going to try to make the rounds again and do a lot of the conversations with some of these content creators and podcasters for Splinterlands. Would love to hear from you guys. But those conversations are extremely important, and it's going to outlay, where people will see this token heading and what's going to get us up to $1. You know what I mean? Like, I know that's our end goal here, is we want to have a valuable SPS token, because that ensures the longevity of the DAO. It ensures the ability for the community to thrive, right? But we have a lot of work to do, and this onus is on everybody. It's not on one single person. It's definitely not on Matt or Splinterlands to figure this out, because it's the community that's responsible for this. So we need to start having those conversations and really digging deep. And I absolutely guarantee you there will be some arguments, right? So it's expected to happen, but that also contributes to the roadmap. It would be nice to get a roadmap up on an SPSDAO.com website so that everybody can understand where we're going, and I'd be happy to help you guys do that. But yeah, I think it's a pretty solid effort, and I do think that this gives us a lot of I'm just going to keep saying opportunity as a community, right? And we can expand on these things, which will further bring value to the ecosystem.
Yeah, well, we're now crossing the 2 hour mark, so you want to just like see if there's any questions to
100%.
process. Okay. But yeah, guys, if you I'm watching the YouTube chat and I'm watching the Discord chat, so if you have any questions for me or PJ, go ahead and get them in. Like I said, it's we're past the 2 hour line now, so we can try to get any questions answered. And I'm down to do some more of these in the future if you want, PJ. Like we could maybe
100%. Yeah. So
like next month we try to go for another one or something.
yeah, 100%. In fact, Quantum Nachos actually has a saying right here. It says, "There's nothing I've seen for SPS ever to reach $1 again, unless some mega whale buys up and sits on the SPS for years." Actually, and just to give you an idea here, one of the things that I talk about in that market making is, and I'll be very clear about this because this is something I have. I actually teach a class at the University of California, Irvine, under Professor Dave Carlson at the Paul Mirage School of Business. I love Dave, great professor. You don't have to have a whale come in and buy a bunch of this stuff. Even seeing 10 cents again is a stretch for years. Maybe. I mean, you might be right. I disagree. In fact, it's really not that hard to do. What you do is we have what's called a deep resting liquidity, right? Because we're locked on Hive for the most part, and I say for the most part because I know we have BNB, right? The more liquidity you have sitting in one place, the less deep volatility you have in those assets, right? Which means it's actually a heavy weight on the price of the asset. With only surface level transaction activity happening, the value of the token will continue to deplete itself, especially when you have a supply that is growing, that's inflationary. So yeah, absolutely. You're totally right as far as that goes. So in order to remove the deep liquidity, because with deep liquidity, you also have very little volatility. Volatility is important in trading assets and making making markets. Because the more volatility you have, the more transactional volume you have. The more transactional volume you have, the more liquidity provisioning makes sense because now you have LPs who can earn fees by providing liquidity to the market. We don't have that. We just don't, right? So in order to get rid of deep market weight is one of the terms that they use, you need to spread it out. And the only way you can spread it out is to put assets on other sources, right? You need to countersink that asset to a bunch of other locations. You need to chop it up like a piece of pie and spread it out. And then what starts to happen is you have volatility in much smaller chunks, which means the volatility of the asset can go up and down much faster than it would at a single source, right? Because now, if you know how automated market makers work, like Uniswap, for example, what will happen is those asset prices will become volatile, but you'll have price discrepancy, which means it becomes even more valuable for arbitrageurs to come in and move assets around. So not only do you get more LP liquidity provisioning, you also get more arbitrage. And both of those equate to more value. And more value means more transactions, which also means that you can go and pump the prices of things much easier when that happens, right? So on top of that, what ends up becoming a key point of this is that if you can earn more fees in LP, then more people can make money by providing liquidity to the market. And there's a ton of different ways. You don't just have to have it on different exchanges. You pair it in different pools with different assets. And so have you guys ever noticed that when like Bitcoin goes up in price or ETH goes up in price, everything else goes up in price? Why is that? It's because they're all in pools that are correlated to the asset values of other tokens, and we don't have that. So not only do you have multiple markets and multiple chains, but you have multiple LP pairs that you can tie to. Yeah, exactly. Hewitt just got it right. You have multiple LP pairs, and all of a sudden you are spread thin everywhere. Now you run the inverse of it, which is you're going to have these traumatic dumps and traumatic pumps that happen that create a ton of volatility. we don't necessarily see any of the gains that come from a Bitcoin pump or an ETH pump because we don't have enough LP pairs to correlate the value and to incentivize people. There's a mechanism in decentralized finance called triangular arbitrage, where you skip between two assets in order to get to a third asset, in order to arbitrage the value of them, right? And that's the correlating pattern that keeps all of these tokens in sync. When one market does well, all of the correlated markets also do well, right? And that's because triangular arbitrage is working behind the scenes to figure out the best, what we call price discovery, right? So you can discover price in multiple different ways, but markets are the most efficient way to do price discovery. We're just not on enough markets, to be honest. That's it. And if you don't see that and understand that, like, we are a walled garden right now, then yeah, you probably won't see any kind of benefit to this. You don't. In fact, what's even better about this is you don't need a mega whale to do this. In fact, it's better if you don't. You just need a bunch of small players that understand that they can make markets themselves now in this day and age through decentralized exchanges. We just don't have access to them yet. That's it. And we don't have a reason to have access to them yet because we haven't bridged to those chains and we haven't created the relationships with the other trading pairs in order to make these liquidity positions. Uniswap v3, I teach a class on Uniswap v3, which is concentrated liquidity, which is probably one of the best financial assets or financial contracts to ever exist. It's brilliant, right? And it's how automated market making works. Splinterlands doesn't have that type of capacity yet. And it's because we haven't really focused on it. But trust me when I say I know exactly how this works. I can actually create 2 tokens right now on ETH chain, right? And actually send out one set of the tokens to everybody on this call, even though there's only, a couple dozen of us probably listening right now. And if we all went and traded those tokens back and forth on Uniswap, we would probably be one of the highest ranking trading pairs in a short period of time. I've done it. I've done it more than a dozen times. In fact, I do it when I teach the class. I'll send tokens out to everybody and we'll watch it trade. And all of a sudden, you pop up on the charts and you realize, holy cow, with just like 30 or 40 people trading all at once, you become one of the highest volume transaction pairs real quick, right? So when we launch Azercoin, no, I'm just kidding. I absolutely know that all of these different markets will easily chop up the depth of liquidity that we have stuck on Hive and will easily create price volatility, which in turn brings a reason for people to stake LP, which in turn means people will create more liquidity pool trading pairs, which in turn will translate to all of that value getting soaked right up and creating a 10-cent, if not a $1 SPS token. I kid you not. I actually presented this back in 2022 when I was first hired because I am so adamant about market making and developing markets for SPS. It's not easy to understand. There's a whole presentation that I put together about how to do this, but it is complicated. It's not necessarily the easiest thing for people who want to play a game to understand. But it's also like we could easily do it with just a few people, key players, and a couple key relationships. And if we had the benefit of Hive also supporting us, the sentiment is a very important piece of this, and that we all just need to basically move forward. I love that movie, by the way. Let's make it happen, Captain. Right? Hewitt, thank you. But hopefully that makes sense. And Quantum Nachos, like, I am firmly a believer in how this could work and how it would happen. But again, This is again one of those social sentiment things. Maybe I can make you a believer, maybe I can't. I don't know. But it's really not that hard in my eyes. We just need some cohesion and we need a little bit of support and some really good sentiment. So I look forward to it. Hopefully, it's something that we can adapt to. I think the DAO has a great opportunity to actually make it happen. I could see us, you know, um, as they always say, the best time to buy is when there's blood on the streets, right? And for most crypto people, we understand this. We've all been through the highs and the lows, and then we've seen things come back and resurrect themselves. You know, so I think that we have that opportunity, and I look forward to it. And I'm very, very excited, as to say, like I look forward to the challenge, especially too. Um, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, right? And hopefully, we can all get on board and move this thing forward because I think we're all here for that same reason, and I look forward to it. Any other questions? Uh, is Zaggy listening? Hopefully he is. Any other questions?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. I
Yeah,
mean, you're
like
fine. Or you're talking to
everything.
YouTube.
Yeah, everything got messed up whenever I tried to see who pinged me in the main stage chat. But yeah. So I don't know, YouTube. I don't see any questions. It looks like we've pretty much wrapped up stuff in Discord. But yeah, I mean, like this is something you and I have talked about a lot. It's something that like I was kind of like pushing for a bit too. But like I mean, ultimately, I do think that we have to go wider instead of like so deep with our token because the wider we go,
100%.
yeah, like I think one thing that like a lot of people don't get right is like you might think like, well, what value is there for like a $10,000 SPS Solana pool? Well, like the value is if the price of Solana changes, then people have to trade in that pool, and it gives us volume that is trackable on things like Uniswap and like things like I mean, I use this like basically like CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko can track our volume, right? Like, I mean, I think we all love like having the easy access to pools on Hive, but you know, and this is something for Ag too. You know, since he's here, like it, that volume does not track outside of Hive. And like so that's one of the problems. Like a lot of times you'll go look and you'll see like, oh well, the SPS token only has like $50,000 worth of volume today. It's like, but like you know, there's also like the other 80% of our volume is happening on Hive and like what you were talking about earlier, like the walled garden that like nobody sees and like people outside of the ecosystem don't care about, and it's like it's cool for us, but like it doesn't help grow the value of the token. And ultimately, yeah, like I'm with PJ on this. Like we have to expand. We have to see basically like a bunch of different pairs. And again, like the thing is, you have to think like, okay, Solana goes up, $20. Well, okay, we have to balance that pool, or like Ethereum goes down $200. We have to balance the pool, or like there's like we have like liquidity that's tied to like stable coins, like some of our deeper liquidity, which in theory
Hmm.
is like fine and all, but like stable coins don't really fluctuate, so there's not a lot of volatility
Nope.
there. So like you want to be like paired against like BNB, you want to be paired against Ethereum, you want to be paired against Solana, like whatever
Yeah,
the big tokens that move a lot, like that's what you want to be paired against.
actually, I could say, and this is just a joke, but I can make a $1 SPS real quick. Actually, I could just you know transfer SPS over to some BNB pool, take a couple of some stable coin or some other asset, put a couple $100 of each in there and then buy it up to $1. And it'll show SPS at some ridiculous amount, but very, very little volume and very, very little activity. I know it doesn't do anybody a favor, but like, this isn't hard to do. And it's not hard to make it happen. Like, we just need to have it happen at scale, which means we need everybody to be focused on the same thing and have the same goals in mind and understand that a bunch of smaller users, we don't need whales. We just need a bunch of people who are interacting, creating the volume, and trading with each other. Trust me, I do this. Like, I do this all the time. And once you start to move the asset in the right direction, the volume picks up. Once the volume picks up, it gets on the radar of a bunch of people who normally wouldn't pay attention to it. And then they have to figure out what their next move is, right? I mean, you create the Nancy Pelosi effect, which is all of a sudden, why is Nancy Pelosi such a good trader, right? Because everybody thinks she has insider information. Therefore, everybody believes she knows something that nobody else knows, right? And that's why, because everybody thinks she trades on insider information. Therefore, everything she does is going to be correct. Therefore, everybody follows what she does. Therefore, she is always correct. That is the fundamental principles behind reflexivity, right? We need to coordinate. We as a community need to effectively work together to do that. It's not about Splinterlands. And the gameplay automatically ties into how fun it is and how many people we have, but we have enough people to do this right now. Like, I'm not even kidding. And I mean, this is a significant impact. I think you guys just need to realize that. You just quit undervaluing what we have and quit being so dour about what the coin's going to do, because ultimately it's up to us. And if we just coordinate and did this cohesively, we wouldn't have this problem. Like, I don't care. You could call me crazy. I do this stuff. I've done this stuff with, I mean, not even kidding, hundreds of millions of dollars at risk, right? So it's just a matter of the community understanding that. And yeah, it's up to us. Like, it really is. So
Sweet.
all right. I hear some bells in the background. Is that me?
Well, I think my dad's watching TV. Yeah, I'm visiting
Oh, gotcha.
parents right
Oh,
now, so
gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
But I
All
don't
right.
see any other questions, so I guess we can probably go ahead and wrap up. But I think let's try to get another one going, like maybe like next month.
Yeah, I love these conversations. I know we should be doing these more often. We've been so focused on validators and just trying to get that out the door. Hopefully everybody's happy at this point and understands that we are getting closer to being all the things that we want to do. So much appreciated. And I look forward to the next conversation. I look forward to hearing from you guys. And I also look forward to hopping on some of the podcasts. So just let me know. Appreciate it, Clay. Thank you very much. Azure
Thanks.
Coin is launching next week, right? So it's not
Oh,
market manipulation, buddy. Azure
as,
Coin is market manipulation, if you ask me. So
Azure
we're
Azure
SPS
Coin's
Azure
launching.
Coin pool. Azure
Okay.
Coin is market manipulation coin. There it is, right?
Somebody probably already made the pumped up fun as soon as you mentioned the word.
I love this stuff. I love talking to you guys. I honestly wish we could do more of this. There's some really exciting things, and I would love to have some of you guys involved in this conversation, because right now it's just me dictating to Clay what we're doing. That's never my intention here, but yeah. And also just ask questions too. Don't be afraid. We want to hear from you guys. It's really important to us. Azure Coin coming out next week. Azure Coin, you can buy it on Solana. Definitely not a meme coin. Okay. All right, guys.
Hashtag I have nothing to do with Azure Coin. Okay.
All right.
But
All
yeah,
right. Well, I
thanks for coming
appreciate
out,
you
guys.
all. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you.